lot of times people will ask what's different about our product than other people's product. I don't really pay too much attention to what the competition does. Pay attention to what we do, and things take care of themselves that way.
Okay, here we go. Okay, good afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you're at in your day. This is a new episode of American Made Rock Crawler, and I am sitting here in Ogden, Utah with Shawn Wood of Tom Wood's Custom Drive Shows. Thank you for meeting with me today, Shawn. I appreciate it.
You got my name right. Everyone thinks it's Woods.
You know what? A while back, I had thought the same thing because Tom Wood's Custom Drive Shafts, but the Woods has to do with it's
possessive.
Right.
Apostrophe S, yeah.
Yes. So I remember it must have been maybe it was the last time I placed an order for some reason, or maybe when I was doing some research before the interview, and I had looked it up because I didn't want to get it wrong. I think that's what it was. And I was like, yeah, it's wood. Okay. So yeah. Anyway. So Shawn showed me around the shop and showing me their process. It is really an innovative process for what they're doing. It was very informative, and we're going to get to know Shawn a little better and talk about just off-road and some different stuff about building parts here and things that he's into, and it should be a good interview. So, all right, let's get started with, you grew up here in Utah?
Yep. Let's see, Roy, I lived in Roy like most of my, kind of younger childhood, and live in Ogden now. Lived in Salt Lake for a while, lived in Moab for a couple of years, but I've lived in Utah my whole life.
You lived in Moab?
Yeah, for like 2 years. We had a shop down there for a couple of years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, when was that?
Mid-2000s.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was like we made drive shafts. I made drive shafts. It was me. But I would do like axles. I actually did custom axles. Like I had the ability to respline axles. So if somebody had like custom length, shaft, we got some like blank stubs that I could cut to length and respline. And, I would like weld, shock mounts back on for people. Sure. And, change out U-joints or sell pinion yokes or whatever. But, did that for like 2 years. It was a long time ago, back when Moab was not as booming.
Right.
And, I don't know. It was a good time, but not that good of a time.
Yeah. So when I had an interview, and actually I'm good friends with Roy Irish, and he was telling me about the things he didn't like about owning a shop in Moab, Utah specifically, because he said, there are things that I didn't like necessarily about owning a shop. But the biggest problem with the shop is it was in Moab, Utah. And when you think about it, you think, well, it's Moab, it's off-road. Why would that be a bad place to have shop? Well, there's a lot of reasons, actually. It's a different world when you're in a destination that shuts down in certain times of the year. And, like people are there on vacation specifically.
Yeah, it was, back then it was like when hotels would shut down, and like basically the whole town would shut down for 3 months out of the year.
Yeah.
And then I think we would close for like 2 months. But, on the shoulder seasons or in the summer, and it was so hot, I was in this like metal and glass building, and I'd just sit there, and I was working, I think 10-hour days because for us to be open,
Yeah.
And, I would just sit in there and like fall asleep at my desk, just sweating. And I remember one time it was like 2 weeks. This is like July, like 2 weeks, not a single person would come in, but I was still there every day. And a guy came in, I was like, all right, this is it. I got a customer. And he's just asking for directions. But then when it was busy, like Jeep Safari, it'd be 20-hour days.
Right.
It was just like nonstop. Like I would like not even eat and barely sleep and just, be there all the time. Right. And it was very feast or famine. But, I think Moab is a little more sustainable now for businesses like full time.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's small town. People would drive to Grand Junction to like get groceries,
Yeah.
So
that's one of the things that I said, even a bottle of water costs more in Moab.
Yeah. And then like, I don't know, it's just kind of hard to, you're just doing repairs. Like we made money, that the business made money. It was called Moab Powertrain, but we make more money here. And I think, I'm more valuable here. And then, changing U-joints out for,
Absolutely.
and we were always like, I was always too nice too, you know, like I'd weld shock mounts on just for free,
Yeah.
just because it saved somebody's weekend.
Sure.
But it was really good PR. For years after that, people like, oh, this is Moab, and you know, broke, and man, he saved my trip, and
Yeah.
still running that same drive shaft, and you know, so that was really valuable.
That's cool. So when you were growing up, I mean, I would imagine, I don't know, I'm not familiar with when this business, when Tom Woods actually started. But when did this business start correlation to you growing up? Was this business always around?
Yeah, and so it was my dad always worked at a driveline shop, and I might be getting some of these dates wrong, but I think in like late 70s, 78, 79, my dad got a job at Six States just because they were hiring. He needed a job. He wasn't looking to make a career out of it. And he worked in the driveline shop, and he did that for a long time. In the like early 90s or whatever, you know, like he started to kind of do more off-road stuff, you know, like people would ask him, hey, can you make a drive shaft for this? And he would figure it out. And then he kind of built a reputation for himself there at Six States. And like working with some of the you know, old magazine guys back when people read magazines.
Yeah.
And so he kind of became known as like the guy to do the Jeep drive shafts in the 90s. And he honestly would have been content just kind of building that up for that employer.
Yeah.
But they didn't, you know, they're just like, just do your job, Tom. Don't, you know, just do what we tell you. And maybe as much to prove a point as anything, in 99, he left that, started his own business. It was in a different location. It was like a tiny little, basically one car garage shop in bad part of town. And first couple of years he was there, it was just him, just working like, you know, sometimes like 30 hours straight, honestly. But then after a couple of years, he moved here. But so when he started the business, I was in high school. I think I was probably like 17 or so. And then I worked for him. I worked 2 jobs for a while. My first job was at a restaurant. I was telling you that earlier. And, but then I would like come in and help package, you know, it wasn't like full time for me yet. And then I worked for him for a little bit. I didn't want to like, that restaurant was actually a restaurant my mom had managed that I had worked at when I was like 15, really even before that. I would like fold napkins or whatever for $20. But anyway, I worked there for a few years. I didn't want to be like, I only ever worked for mom and dad. So there was a couple little sabbaticals I took, like working somewhere else, you know, that sort of thing. But it was never like, you know, I don't want to work for you, Dad. I hate this. And so for the most part, though, I have been, you know, working here since I was in high school, and I'm 40. I'll be 43 this year. So most of my life,
Right.
You know, I think there's this thing like where once it's most of your life, I think you can like say you're an expert.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I was doing those kind of comparisons before myself. So what did working here and getting into the shop happen first, or did the off-road bug come first as far as getting into off-road stuff?
I mean, really, quite frankly, the off-road, like the reason we do off-road drive shafts is because off-road guys were, you know, hey, can you build a drive shaft? And my dad taking on that, like, you know, on that challenge. Right. And then like he used to have like a Nissan, you know, like it was just this dumb truck that he put dual cases in or whatever that he would go off-roading in. He has a CJ7 now that's like kind of nice, but he doesn't drive it.
Right.
And I think, you know, we're not really, you saw my Volkswagen Beetle outside, that I drive. I didn't even own a Jeep. And I'm kind of like, I'm comfortable, like just, yeah, I don't feel like I need a Jeep to prove myself, because I'm passionate about the business and the process. And I like off-roading, and sometimes I'll ride along with people. I'm way more into the product than going wheeling.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing that, that's the people I'm seeking out for this program are people that have a passion for elements of the business, and the industry, because, I actually think that there's more people that don't drive, that are passionate about some portion of the industry, whether it be parts or events or something, or filming, or like a good thing that Nathan Riddle brought up with me is being a storyteller, and that's kind of what I've started to think about this as, is I'm out trying to get people's stories, and stories are interesting because everybody loves a good story. Even, you know, like sometimes we forget because it's our story, but sometimes our story is actually very interesting when people hear about it. So I think that there's a lot more people in the industry that do not drive, that may not own a Jeep, but are passionate about some element of it.
Yeah, and I think, like, you know, my dad, honestly, he got a Jeep so that he could like go to Jeep events or whatever, right? He was never super into it either. But it's this kind of thing, like I was just saying, I've been in this industry for most of my life, so I don't feel like we got to park a, you know, big expensive Jeep out there to prove that I'm like in the off-road.
Yeah.
And it's fun and everything, but I'm a little bit of a workaholic, and you know, I'd rather be like working and accomplishing things, and like all the stuff that I was showing you earlier, I get more excited about that than just like, you know, driving. And their Jeeps are expensive.
Yes, they are. Yes.
I'm positioned where I've been really lucky. I got to co-drive in a couple of Ultra 4 races.
Really?
It's super fun. You know, like one of the coolest experiences ever. Shout out to John Grounds for making that happen. But you know, if I want to go to Moab and go on some Jeep trails, I can figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as it seems to me that by all accounts now, you've kind of taken the reins here. And when did that happen? Kind of
2020. My dad is, let's see, how old is he now? He's like 68. So he was in his early 60s, right? In 2020. And for a couple years before that, I was like wanting to kind of relieve him of having to come in to work all the time. More so than it's not like I'm trying to take control of his business.
right.
It's like he worked very hard, and, you know, I saw him, you know, work very hard and work 20-hour days more, you know, like just work so much that I feel like like a normal person's like from like 18 to retirement, he's already put in those hours.
Yeah.
You know, by the time he was 57, he had put in those hours. Right. So I didn't want him to have to work until the day he dies or until he's 70 or whatever. But then there was also some things where, you know, as he gets older, maybe I have some ideas, and maybe he's like achieved what he wanted to in life, and he's not like as kind of hungry to, you know, prove things as much.
Yeah.
So 2020, we had redone our website. We were talking earlier about how our website was like very outdated for a long time.
Yeah.
I pushed for and kind of helped make our e-commerce site, and then was doing a lot more of that kind of stuff. But then my dad also had like a surgery where he couldn't come into work for a few months, and then he realized he didn't want to. You know, after not coming in a day for a few months, he realized he didn't need to, and, you know, he didn't want to anymore. And so it wasn't this like planned thing necessarily. It was like kind of phasing it in. And then there was an event, and then, you know, he just hasn't come back.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, it seems like it was a natural progression by all accounts. And, you know, I think everybody gets that time. I remember when my mom was that time came for her to retire. And it was one of those things where it just was time. And it made sense. So
yeah. And when I say you know, when I say, or you say, or anyone says that I like run things here, we've got employees that that company 6 States that my dad used to work for, when he first needed employees, well, who does he know that knows how to build drive shafts? The guys he used to work with. So we've got guys here that have been working with him before, like, for 30 years, you know, so they have a lot of experience.
yeah.
We have other guys in the shop that have worked here for like over 10 years, some of them even, you know, longer than that. So everyone knows what they're doing. You know, it's not like the place would die if I didn't come in. But as far as like making decisions and, you know, direction and activity, have to do it, yeah, that falls on me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say that one of the things that I said about, in my opinion, when it comes to any business is low turnover and retaining employees says a lot about what you're doing at the business.
Yeah.
You know, nobody likes to stay and work for a business that is dysfunctional or doesn't put out a good product,
Yeah.
That's where you see high turnover. So
It's hard. I mean, there's some, it's like people have either been here forever or like people can't. And I think that there's maybe a generational thing or, just certain, it's hard to find people that are really will commit. But yeah, some people have been here for basically the beginning, maybe before, if you count, that they used to work for him at Six States. And we're super fortunate. I think it's actually one of the things that sets us apart, that where we've got people like, if you call and you have technical questions or you place an order, whatever, the person that answers the phone has at least 20 years of experience, right? So they're not like, let me see if I can figure this out.
yeah,
They know what they're doing. Like they've been in the industry for a long time. They've been doing drive shafts for a long time.
yeah. Well, and I was going to say, I think sometimes if you're somebody who may be new looking for a job, sometimes like it takes a certain person to step in and work with somebody that's been in the business that long, that has certain standards. And, it's not always you're not always going to find somebody that's super committed to come in, that is maybe a younger person that's not as been in there. So you'll find them, but they're harder to find. I guess.
Can I rant about the state of things of like blue collar America? So I think like when I was younger, I felt like this, and I feel like it's still the same where, people that maybe struggle in high school and they're never going to be a doctor. We as a society say, why don't you go to trade school? Why don't you learn to weld? And it's not like trades. We don't treat them as aspirational. We treat them as like, it'll keep you out of jail, and then who do you get in the trades, Yeah. And then I think that there's people that are like, there's our student society, the teachers, the parents, whatever. They're not like, why don't you learn to be a welder? You're super bright and talented. Why don't you learn to be a welder or a machinist or a carpenter or whatever, And then so it's like, I feel like we push everyone to, out of like blue collar work. And then we treat it as this like, hey, at least you're paying the bills kind of thing. And it deserves better than that.
Yeah, I agree. I know people that have welded their whole lives that have been very successful, and machinists that are super ultra talented people. And, I agree with you 100%. I think that trades, the amount of people that go and waste money at going to college is because of the way we kind of envision, we put that out there as a society. Not everyone, but like the bulk of society puts it in their head that, oh, you're going to go to high school and then you're going to go to college and go get some job doing this and that. When there's a lot of people that if they went into the trades, they can be just as successful as anybody else.
Yeah.
And do really well. And not everybody's cut out for college and being a doctor or a lawyer or sitting in a cubicle for any of that stuff.
Right. And I think that like every job has like purpose and dignity, and actually like making stuff. You ask somebody that like, works in whatever, kind of like white collar of some corporate business or whatever, what do you do? And it's like all abstract. You ask me what I do and I can like put a thing in your hands. Yeah. Like we make this thing that does a thing that's important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, sometimes it's like hard work sucks. I think, everyone wants to like just get rich, trading crypto or whatever instead. And they think that like that's achievable. And so why would they come, work in a hot shop or is it they getting dirty,
So yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
Another thing we were talking about earlier, and it's another thing that I think we share, is we were talking about public lands and cleanups and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And you were telling me your story about one that you organized. And just share a little bit of what you remember about that, because that was the thing. I think it was great. I think when I first asked you, I sent you an email and I talked to you on the phone, you called me back. It was something that you had mentioned, and I could tell that there was passion about, public lands and keeping things, open and public.
Yeah. I mean, just in general, I like to, as much as I can, like make a positive impact on things. Yeah. Yeah. But really kind of, I'll try to be sort of brief, but I run a lot. I'm a trail runner, and a lot of times, like, there was a friend where every Thursday we'd go running, and the trails we'd go to, like, just the hiking trails, and just do garbage all over. And we started like picking stuff up, and it turned into this thing where like other people would come, and we were organizing these big, kind of like 12 people would come, and we did like trash bingo where it was like you pick up a Band-Aid, and yeah, like we made it fun and a prize thing, and just like truckloads of garbage.
Yeah.
And that sort of like, kind of gave me the kind of confidence to, this was a few years ago, but I organized a thing in the off-road kind of world where I got some other companies to donate, like Warren, I think they donated a winch. The Gambler 500 did something, I can't remember exactly what it was. Trasharoo donated, but there were some companies that supported it. Everyone was super on board.
Yeah.
Everyone was super excited about it. And we did a contest. It was a social media contest where people would go out just whenever, pick up garbage, post a picture of it, and use whatever hashtags. And people were super excited about it. And it's not like they were excited about the contest as much as they felt good about themselves, to like go clean stuff up. And a lot of people were like, I do this all the time anyway. I think a lot of people really do that. But yeah, like truckload the garbage. And I think that for like land use stuff, big thing with land use. Again, I used to live in Moab, very contentious, down there, right? But there's some valid arguments, like, people getting upset with off-roaders, and we'll blame the UTV guys. Right? But sometimes, like, if you leave garbage out there, people are going to be mad about it. And not everyone does that, but enough people do that it's easy for people that don't want the Jeeps there anyway
Yeah.
to broad brush the whole off-road community as those guys.
Yeah.
And if we just, leave it better, then there's nothing for them to complain about. It takes away, there's not an argument there anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of public lands. I don't think there's anything wrong with off-road parks. In fact, I have an interview and a media thing scheduled for an off-road park. But public lands, if I had to choose, and mostly this conversation comes up with people from the East Coast, because back there, mostly it's off-road parks. Out here, we have public lands, and we're very fortunate in my eyes. And I always tell everybody, we have to make the public lands an issue, and we have to do things to support it and to keep the impression of the community as a good one when it relates to that. These type of cleanups help that. They keep public lands open, and they keep the public lands looking good, because I remember one day while we were on a trail at an off-road event in 2020, and I, no kidding, was finding diapers on the trail. And it was like, just, it's those few bad ones that can just wrench it all for everybody and make us look really bad.
Right, because nobody notices the person that just like, comes in, doesn't make an impact. And I think, the enjoyment of public lands too, like in Moab's a beautiful place. It's super unique. People come from all over the world to see it that aren't even off-roading. Yeah. But I think like most of the off-roaders in Moab, it's not even like, oh, it was like the steepest boulder in America. It's like there's rocks everywhere, but the landscape is what's unique. And the landscape, I think, is like what makes most of the impact on people. Yeah. And so a lot of Jeeping is just like, how do I get to this really pretty place? Get my Jeep and drive there. But if there's garbage in that really pretty place, it ruins it for the Jeepers too. It ruins it for everyone.
I agree. All right. So I'm going to make sure I got everything real quick that I wanted to discuss with you. Oh, there was another thing that we talked about earlier, and we'll just touch on it really quick because I thought it was interesting. But you were telling me, I'm going to show everybody the back of it real quick, but you have an artist that helps do the t-shirts.
Yeah. So his name's Alan Close. His like social media is like APOC, APOC.
Yeah.
But yeah, I met him at Jeep Safari. He was just like a friend of a friend. Went to a dinner, but he's a super cool guy, and we've commissioned him to do maybe like 4 shirt designs for us.
The inspiration behind this was what?
Oh yeah, this I wanted it to be like the like Conan the Barbarian kind of, standing on a mountain with a sword in the air thing, but with a drive shaft.
I thought that was a really cool thing.
Yeah. I give Alan like maybe a little bit of like this one, and I'll turn here, but I wanted something that's kind of more like retro
Nice.
because I think that a lot of our, like a Jeep YJ is a vintage vehicle now. No,
Well, and what got me into off-road was square body Chevy. So I was like, that's what and then it was Toyotas. Like I didn't own a Jeep. And so I'm about a year older than you, I think. And I didn't get my first Jeep until 2013. Okay, and one other thing that I know is really cool is that when you get a Tom Woods custom drive shaft, after a couple of years, if you need to have it serviced and you don't want to do it, worry about what's wrong with it, you can pack it up and send it in, and they can take care of it for you.
yeah. So we only do this on shafts that we originally built. Like sometimes guys walk in here and they have their old stock shaft, and we just say sorry, we can't do it, and we send them somewhere else. But any shaft that we built, you send it to us and it needs to be repaired or modified, we charge you for the parts, not for the labor. So it's a bit of a maybe break even for us, but it's kind of this like extended service plan that comes with any shaft. So, if you put in a new axle, you don't have to throw away that $500 drive shaft you just bought.
That's what in different builds and stuff like that, I've had to do it a few times, and it's really great. Well, thank you again very much for having me up and showing me around and telling me more about what you do. And it was nice to get to know you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoy talking about it. I'm honestly, I'm like excited about,
Well, and I had people that are like that are, into it. And that's the best kind of interview for me. Thank you for tuning in. Again, this is Shawn with Tom Woods Custom Drive Shafts. If you need a drive shaft, check out their app, check out their website. For American Made Rock Crawler, this should be episode number 11. Share, comment, like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell. And we'll hope to see you again next time. Thanks.